Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The best way to silence an allegation of ducking from another fight is to call them out on it, follow through, and make a fight. And that's exactly what Luis Ortiz intends to do with Dillian Whyte. And the Brit has claimed the Cuban has avoided him multiple times, and he wanted silly money to fight Whyte in July. So after some back and forth in the media, and social media as well, including Ortiz challenging Whyte to strap on his nuts and come face him in the United States on the Wilder and Fury undercard, so that Ortiz could show you a good ass-whooping, son, Ortiz is now willing to get that work against the Brit in the UK. He's told Boxing Scene, after much thought and consideration, I accept your challenge. If you won't come down to the USA, then I'll step off the Wilder Fury card and fly over to the UK and fight you in your own backyard. Done deal. Enough talking that rubbish you speak. Send over the contract and I'm there. Now you've got yourself a real problem, son. So now, what are you gonna do? Got to admit, when I read this story, when I read these quotes and whatnot, caught up with the action, I thought, this is fantastic. My reaction, it's a great fight. It's one of those sorts of fights that I didn't think was going to happen for various reasons. One of those sorts of fights that fans have been talking about, pretty much all this year, that they'd like to see Whyte versus Ortiz, but it didn't look likely. And it's one of these fights the division needs. And one of the ones that I want to see the most out of any fight that can be made in the division. In Whyte, you've got a brash brawler who's a bit crude and unrefined, but very effective. He is a hard hitter, as Joseph Parker found out. And he's got some sneaky tactics, and Whyte he comes in better than advertised. And Luis Ortiz, we've got one of the division's best technicians, and he can also crack. He's got power in both hands, as we saw when he wrecked Razvan Kajanu a couple of months ago. So I really like this potential matchup, and it would have the potential to be a real war. I could see this being a real sort of shootout. It may not go the distance. It could be a sort of 4-round, 6-round affair. And being in the UK, it's going to be a pay-per-view event if it gets made, and it would generate big paydays for the fighters involved. Bigger than the paydays that they would have got if they had fought on the Wilder and Fury undercard. That's just a reality. And for a guy like Ortiz, who's grafted away in the division, regularly been avoided over the years, it would be good to see him get a 7-figure payday. That's what both Parker and Whyte walked away with when they fought in July. So Ortiz could well get the same if a deal is done. And that's the thing now, isn't it? That is the sticking point. Both sides say they want it, but now they need to get a deal done. It's got to get beyond talk. We've got to see some contracts, and let's hope that they can reach some terms and make the fight. I think, much like the Parker and Whyte fight in July, a 50-50 split, I think that would be the right call here. It should be the same. Ortiz and Whyte, they are on the same level. They are both within striking distance of another big fight against the likes of a Wilder or Joshua. And a win over the other, it only enhances their place in the division. There's a lot of credit, there's a lot of dough, there's a lot on the line for this fight. It's a big fight for the heavyweight division. But interestingly enough, Ortiz's manager, Jay Jimenez, he isn't crazy about having the fight in the UK. Telling Boxing Scene he prefers his fighters fight in the United States, but ultimately he gave his client the go-ahead and will back him since he is so adamant about facing Whyte next. Saying, I don't want the fight. I told Luis no because we already offered him the fight here for the December the 1st card. And Whyte refused, and when the WBC gave him a mandatory against us, he refused. So why go on his terms and fly to the UK? That makes no sense. There's only so much I could do. As a manager, my job is to give the best advice and be there for my team. But he's a grown man, and the truth is, the fighter is the boss, so at the end of the day, they always have the last word. So I guess we will be in the UK soon. Well, let's hope so. With all that, with what Jimenez is saying, he's really giving the hard sell on how bad Ortiz wants this Dillian Whyte fight. And I like that. And I'm sure the one sort of consolation for Jay Jimenez out of all of it is, a bigger payday for Ortiz in this fight means a bigger cut for him as well. But I do like that there is some spite between these fighters. There has been some words before. Obviously, it's sort of bubbled up again. And I'm sure Ortiz, he's going to take, if he can beat Dillian Whyte, he'll take great pleasure in beating a Matchroom fighter. He was with Matchroom after all in 2016 in pursuit of an Anthony Joshua fight. But instead, he ended up with Dave Allen and Malik Scott in fights that, he didn't look great in, and he sort of walked away a bit bitter he didn't get a shot at Joshua. And given Whyte is a bit of a come-forward and hittable guy, Joseph Parker was hitting him at will early on, Ortiz, he would fancy his chances of using his skills to good effect, looking good, and getting a win, while Whyte, he would probably fancy his chances of landing something decent and hurting Ortiz, maybe gassing him later on and stopping him later in the fight. There's a lot of permutations with this fight, and I certainly hope that it does get made, and that we get to see another two top contenders face each other in 2018. I would also note, where does this leave Derek Chisora? Because obviously Dillian Whyte was looking at a Chisora fight for December the 22nd. Apparently Chisora is trying to sort of raise the money. He did offer Dillian Whyte £5 million. Well, that's what Whyte said, and Chisora sort of accepted. Dillian Whyte's been trolling him on social media saying, "Where's the money, Derek? You've gone awfully quiet." So, I would actually rather prefer to see an Ortiz and Whyte fight. The Chisora and Whyte fight, great fight in 2016, and a rematch is a good prospect. But I would much prefer to see Ortiz and Whyte get in the ring and settle their beef. How about you? Are you looking forward to this fight? Who do you think's going to win? What do you like about this fight? And do you think they can actually get a deal done? Will Luis Ortiz and Dillian Whyte come to an agreement? Are they going to be sensible, make the fight fans would like to see, have been talking about for several months now, and get it done, and then we see them in the ring on December the 22nd? Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.